Simon.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you very much. Wow, that's a long bio. Good to meet you. We want to make this as interactive as possible. But I will start off by telling you a little bit about this crowd revolution, and then if you have any questions, just ask me. Perhaps after we kind of go through the initial part. What I want to talk to you today about is this power of the crowd. So if you are a CEO or a chairman or president of a company or country, I have bad news for you. You're not in charge anymore. The crowd is in charge. We are already connected, we are getting organized, and we want to be involved. And I'll tell you more about what that means. So what I will do is I will talk a little bit about what this crowd movement, what it is, how does it actually change your business or the business of your clients in the IT industry, and then at the end tell you a little bit about, well, how can you as a company actually play with this crowd? How can you take advantage of this new phenomenon? So the crowd is in charge. What I mean is, in my definition, we are now in the third wave of the internet. The internet, as we all know, started off with this static internet where information was broadcasted to the world, but it didn't change the way we did business. It was just a way of broadcasting information in a new, different way. And then came this Web 2.0 thing, which was YouTube, which was definitely user-generated comments and content. But again, it didn't really change the way a big company interacted with its employees or its customers. It was just a different communication medium. But now we are in this third wave, which I call it the crowd web, which is just my definition. But in this crowd web, suddenly the employees, the customers, the suppliers, we all are in charge, and we can control, and we have direct impact to the company. The companies have to change the way they do business. And one example is Wikipedia, because that actually is run by the contributors, by the stakeholders, not by a CEO who's deciding what to do. So what does it all mean? Well, we are already connected. The social media and networks have the sizes of religions and of countries. The social networks can form companies. They can create value. Sometimes, like in the case of Instagram, just within a couple of months and years. But also, the crowd has the power to fight against regimes. They can have negative power. They can actually even eat companies who are not opening up. So these are examples of a few companies who didn't open up to this open world, this open innovation world, and they got eaten. And also, as I mentioned, the crowd can have negative power, so it can actually attack companies who are not playing by its rules, like Citibank, Bank of America, PlayStation, who got attacked by a crowd of hackers. And so now that you understand this kind of movement of, well, there is this crowds which are really, they're getting together, they have power, and they can do it for good, they can do it for bad. And well, what does that mean from a company perspective? So this is a very famous, also a bit complicated chart from a professor, as you can tell. And what he has done is he talked about, what is this open innovation? And this crowdsourcing obviously is about open innovation. And what does it mean, and what does it mean for a company? Well, if the green thing without the holes is the old model, this is how a company, whether they're in IT or pharma or in defense, it doesn't matter, this is how they have innovated. So you have your R&D, researchers that you pay for, and their ideas are coming in like this, and they're basically going into this current market. Well, open innovation basically means that at each point of your product development, you put in holes in there. So what it means is from the beginning, you could try to get ideas from the outside. That same here, different stages. That doesn't even have to be technology. It can be marketing, can be selling, can be financing. But also, you might create ideas that you then spin off and create new markets. So if you think about it this way, the old model was that I was the CEO, and we decided in a meeting that we were creating this new phone, and it's going to be smart, and it's going to be green. And then the R&D people here would go back and they start working on it and come up with this product. that then the marketing team would start to push out, and the sales team would sell it. So that's the old model. The new model is, well, why do we always have to ask these 4 R&D people that we pay for to come up with a new product? Couldn't we ask the other people in our organization to help with new ideas, all of our employees? Well, that makes sense. So what about all our suppliers? All of our suppliers actually have great knowledge about our product. They could help coming up with new ideas to improve the product. And finally, so what about all our customers? They know the product, they love it, they know what's good and bad about it. Why don't we ask them about what we should do? And then finally, let's ask the world. Let's ask anybody and say, hey, we have a problem where we want to make our product better. Can you help us? And so that is really what this is all about. It's a very clever chart, but it's about opening up your entire company to a different kind of thought process. Or to look at it in a different way. This used to be the people who you are looking for when you want to solve a problem in your company, the staff. These are the people who you pay for. They have expertise, but they're very, this is it. But then also people that you go to who you don't employ, experts. Not a new thing. These are consultants. This is McKinsey. This is Harvard Business School, NUS University. So you go to an expert and say, hey, Professor blah, 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 we tried to find a problem to our chemistry problem or our IT problem. Can you help? Yeah, sure. So this is also a very old solution. But then who you're not accessing right now are people who are your retirees, alumni. Might even be alumni of different companies, but retired people in your field around the world. Experts in parallel fields. So again, it might be that there might be a biology professor who has great insights into chemistry. And then finally, a lot of gifted amateurs. A 20-year-old kid in Bulgaria who is amazingly good hacker who can actually solve your IT problems. Have you asked him about his opinion? Probably not. So there's this long tail of outside resources that actually have or might have already a solution to your problem. So the point is, you don't even have to ask them to do anything new. They might already have the solution because they developed it for something else. They might have developed it already in a different industry. So we are doing this all the time in our competitions for Innocentive. So we are a platform where you put a contest up, you say a problem, and the first person to solve that problem gets a prize. And then that solution we give to the company. And the one thing that we find a lot all the time is that you actually have the solution ready. Meaning, we don't have to ask someone to develop something new, but within a day, a few hours, some of these people say, well, actually, here's the solution. Thank God someone was finally asking for it, because I developed this already 10 years ago for something totally different, and I thought it was worthless. And so this is, as you can say, this is the theory, but do I have any proof? Well, actually I have proof that this is working, because, as I mentioned, we've done this 1,500 times. So we ran these competitions around the world in all kinds of industries. And finally we did a project with Harvard Business School where they looked at our data set and tried to find out, well, who is solving all these problems? And what they found out that this long tail, these people actually have a 10% higher chance of solving your problems by being outside the industry. So let me explain this for a second, because you might think this is crazy, but it's actually very logical. What it means is that if all the insiders, so all your PhDs in chemistry or whatever, they haven't solved that problem, that means they all try to solve it from the same approach, they try to look at it from the same perspective, then actually it's very logical that if they haven't solved that yet, then it is logical that the outsiders have a higher chance of solving it, because they're coming at it from a totally different perspective. They might look at an engineering problem from a medical perspective. They might look at, and so on. So the idea of crowdsourcing is accessing people for your problem that you normally don't get to. And they have a lot of value. Well, another way of exemplifying what I'm talking about, crowdsourcing, it's a little bit, this is my definition, it's a little bit like cloud computing for humans. And since you're all IT experts, I don't have to explain cloud computing to you. But nevertheless, the way I define crowdsourcing as a human equivalent to cloud computing is something like this. So cloud computing obviously goes something like this. You have a choice. Either you own the infrastructure or you own the PC and the server, and you might have a very hard problem to solve. So you might have a choice. You go to IBM, which I used to work for, and you might say, hey, IBM, can I have a big clunky server? And you pay $10,000 or $5,000 these days. And you have it, and that server is going to run, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks to compute on your problem. Or you go to Amazon.com and you just rent 400 servers for 30 minutes and you pay $500. And that's a similar point about crowdsourcing for humans. So again, the point is either you could buy 5 PhDs and you put them into your lab and they work for you, and this is going to be your brains and they're going to work on that problem and say, hey guys, here's the problem, figure it out, come back to me in a year. Well, or you rent all the available brain power in the world and say, hey, here's the problem, guys. Does anybody have a solution? Now pay if you solve it. That's crowdsourcing. So let me give you a few examples of what does it mean in a few examples in terms of real life solutions. And I define this crowdsourcing as a very fluid term. I think it has 3 different types. The first one is wisdom of the crowds. And the way you could do that is something how Starbucks has done it. There's a webpage called mystarbucksidea.com. I don't know if you remember. I'm a member and I use it a lot, although I haven't been very successful. And the way it works is that Starbucks says, well, can we access the wisdom of all our customers? Can we ask them of what we should do about product innovation? And what you can see is that about 28,544 people have already submitted ideas for a product that Starbucks should do. So there's about 150,000 customers are members, and 280,000 ideas have already come up just for coffee ideas, 250 for, I think, equipment, for beverages, for food, music. And I've already submitted my ideas as well. And the way it works is that then all the people in this community, they vote on ideas, and the best ones go to the top, the bad ideas filter to the bottom. And what Starbucks does is it says, well, actually, from the best ideas that come in, we are committed to making them reality. And so I think in 2 years or 3 years, they have already done about 100 of these ideas per year they actually make into a product, which is brilliant, because that way you first ask your customers, hey guys, what do you want? What do you care about? Then you let them get committed and decide. And then finally, once you've done it, you implement it, you let them know, and you have about 28,000 people who love your new product, who are going to be champions for it and advertise it by themselves. So it's a very smart way of how you can access the crowd, your employees, your customers, anybody, about, hey, what we should do. Instead of the CEO deciding, let's do strawberry macchiatos, well, let the crowd come up with it, and actually you have already customers built in. Another concept is crowdfunding, which you might be very familiar with because it's a very sexy term these days. And there's a lot of different platforms for doing crowdfunding, but to exemplify, my favorite is Kiva. I don't know if you know Kiva, but Kiva exemplifies the power of crowdfunding, because again, the point is that you say, instead of me going to fund my company or my loan or my movie or whatever I want to do through a bank or a venture capitalist, could I find peers, could I find citizens, anybody to help me crowdfund a project? And so what Kiva is doing, as one of the many examples that are out there, it says, we want to give loans to small entrepreneurs around the world. And what it does is, for example, there are people like Atilio in Peru who needs, I think, perhaps $200 to open up an agricultural business. And you can give him a loan of $25 or more for him to do it. And the only thing what he would do is he says, okay, I take that and I promise to pay you back the money. So it's not that you make money out of this. Your satisfaction comes from helping this entrepreneur to do something with their money and actually provide a living, and hopefully you get the money back. Sounds interesting. Now the question is, does that actually work? And this platform is about 7 years old. It's about 30 people in California, a bunch of servers, sitting in a garage, not very, sophisticated. But what they've done is very impressive. Because they've already given out, in these bunch of years, $439 million in these loans. And even more impressive is, well, how much of these loans have people like Attilio actually, paid back? How much is the default rate? Remember, that's a big problem about banks. Is they're not giving out money because they thinking the entrepreneurs are not giving the money back. So again, how much of this is wasted? Well, the repayment rate is amazingly high. It is, and this is now my punchline, it's 99%. So 99% of times, you got your money back from Attilio and others to then invest again or just pocket it. But this is working. And this is the future of financing, is don't go to the bank and the venture capitalist. Find a project, try to find out what the crowd could do to help you, and then put it on many of these online projects. And it works for the same for big companies as well. If you're a big company and you are trying to do a new project, well, I bet you can go to your employees or your customers to co-found it or co-fund it if it's really something they care about. But think about the angle that they do. Yeah. Okay. All right, so then the third type is crowdsolving. And that is what InnoCentive does. So our business model is we have 285,000 smart people like you who are members of this community for free. And what they do is they basically wait for problems of big companies, governments, organizations, foundations that are posted on this platform as a contest. So it might say the first person or the best solution for this particular problem, send in your solution and the winner gets 20,000. So there's basically, from a user perspective, you find problems to solve and you apply if you think you know the solution. If you win it, you get the money. If you don't, well, try again. And from a company perspective, it's brilliant because you don't have to risk hiring 20 people. You say, well, actually, if it gets solved, brilliant, my problem gets solved by the crowd. If not, I didn't risk anything because I don't have to pay the price. So it's a pay for results rather than a pay for promise to solve it.